Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. In this session, I will talk about how today's top SaaS companies build an ecosystem moat. But before we begin, let me introduce myself first. My name is Austin. I am a lead product manager at Softr, a no-code web app builder. Previously, I was the lead PM at Landbot, which is another no-code company. And even before that, I was a growth PM at Klook, a unicorn in the travel tech space backed by Sequoia. Throughout my career, I built both B2B and B2C products, but my favorite type of product to work on is B2B SaaS that has built-in growth levers. These are the so-called PLG companies. And this is why I'm so excited to be giving this talk today. Now, without further ado, let's dive in. If you look at some of the most exciting SaaS companies today, such as Notion, Zapier, Airtable, you'll notice they all share one thing in common, which is a thriving ecosystem. Now, they don't just have thriving ecosystems because they have many users. In fact, they have many users today because they've each had an ecosystem strategy since very early on. And today, I will share how you might be able to do the same for your product. But let's first take a step back and talk about why build an ecosystem. There are two reasons. First, it's really hard for SaaS companies to compete on features these days because features are so easy to copy. If you just pick one product category, I guarantee you can find five nearly identical products within just an hour. However, one thing you cannot copy is an ecosystem. Take YouTube, for example. Even if you somehow get access to its source code and build a clone, it still doesn't mean anything because you don't have the videos and creators on the platform. And this is why ecosystem is such a defensible strategy. Also, if you look at the companies I mentioned earlier, they're all horizontal platforms, meaning that they target more than one industry, one department, and sometimes even one use case. The good thing about being a horizontal platform is that you can target a very large total addressable market. However, on the flip side, it means you cannot go after all of your user segments. Sometimes it's even hard to just prioritize because once you start doing that, people are going to start seeing you as a vertical solution. Luckily, with the help of an ecosystem, you can now tap into many different user segments and do so in a very scalable way. Now that we understand why build an ecosystem, let's talk about how to build one. There are three common levers to build an ecosystem: user generated templates, experts, and plugins. I will give you a crash course on what they are and how they work. Let's talk about user-generated templates first. Templates are a table stake feature in most SaaS products today. They are beneficial for a few reasons. First, they offer a fill-in-the-blank onboarding experience for your new users, which is very easy to follow. They also showcase your features with live examples. And lastly, they adapt your product to different use cases without you having to build specialized features. However, most templates are still built by the SaaS companies themselves, meaning that the process is not scalable. User generated templates solve this problem, and they also enable a growth loop where new users can come in, they try templates, they become power users themselves, and they can go on to create and share their own templates. Now, this loop can be applied across all of your user segments, making it a very scalable process. And let's be honest, no matter how big your company is, you will never build templates faster than your community does. So now, why not outsource it to them, right? A great example here is Miro. Miro's whiteboarding tool is very open-ended, and during the pandemic, they saw a lot of business went online and started using their tool. The team at Miro knew that they couldn't possibly build templates for every single industry, so they created Miroverse and started recruiting their power users to build templates for them. A lot of their power users run workshops for a living, so they happily contributed to gain publicity. Miro got free content, and their users got more templates. So it's a win-win-win situation for everybody. Another great example is Canva. Canva's value prop is that anyone can build beautiful design with their pre-built templates and assets. So they have a contributor programs where designers can share their templates and the design. And if those design get used, the designers will get a commission. Moving on, let's talk about experts. There are typically three types of experts: agencies, educators, and community leaders. Let's talk about agencies first. These are people who implement your product for other users. They're valuable to you for two reasons. First, they can bring customers to you. And second, you can send your existing customer to them for implementation help. And if they're able to set up your product properly, those customers will retain longer. Now, some people might ask, why not just offer this service yourself and keep the revenue? The issue is that unless you're targeting enterprise, the unit economics of offering such service is likely not going to be in your favor. Also, a lot of these agencies do more than just implement your product. They advise their clients how to operate their business. They do custom development, custom integrations. And none of these are things you want to get into as a SaaS company. The best example of agency program is by HubSpot. HubSpot have a very comprehensive agency directory where they categorize their partners by tiers, industries, services, locations, and languages. So if you're a HubSpot user that needs some help with CRM configuration, you can just go on the directory and find someone to help you. Rumor has it that 40% of their revenue comes through agencies. I don't know if that's true or not, but I personally believe it considering how much they've invested into the program. Next up, we have educators. These are people who create tutorials, courses, or bootcamps around your product. Although every SaaS company already has a knowledge base, the tutorials are usually about how features work. They don't explain how their features work in each user segment's specific context. And this is where your power users can come in. Your power users speak your customer's language, both metaphorically and literally sometimes. The content they create are usually very entertaining and engaging, a lot more so than the official help articles and videos. You can typically find two types of educators. The first type are people who create tutorials specifically for your product. This usually happens when you have a product that's so widely used that using it becomes its own skill. A classic example here is Excel. If you just Google Excel tutorials, you'll find thousands and thousands of tutorials online. The second type are people who create content to teach a broader subject, but they do so through your product. For example, in the no code space, we see a lot of people teach people how to build apps without writing a line of code. But no code is not just about one particular tool. Different tools do different things. So in my company, Softr, we often see influencers teach their audience how to build client portals and internal tools using Softr. And we try to encourage that by giving them unreleased information or promote their content to our own network. Lastly, we have community leaders. Community has become a very hot topic over the last few years, and every company wants to build one. However, the challenge is that community manager as a role is still in its early days, meaning that not many people know what they're doing. And also, community initiatives are very labor intensive. Whether you want to moderate discussions, run events, or host contests, they all require a lot of human involvement. One solution smart companies have found is to turn their loyal community members into community leaders. A common example is if you go to a community forum, you'll see this type of member profiles with gamification components, such as badges, contribution count, to make these members feel rewarded so they'll come back to contribute more. But the best example I've seen is Notion's ambassador program. Notion admit 20 new ambassadors each month, which means it's very selective. They allow these ambassadors to run local Notion events and communities. They even allow them to monetize through their own status. That incentive people to really promote motion to their own, Notion to their own community. And I thought that's quite smart. What about affiliates? You might have noticed I didn't mention anything about affiliate program. That's because, in my opinion, affiliate program is just a incentive structure. If you ask any affiliate program manager, they'll likely tell you that the most successful affiliates promote their products in one or more of the ways I just mentioned. With that said, it can still be a good idea to have an affiliate program. I just didn't thought it's worth mentioning on its own. All right, the last lever, let's talk about plugins. These are third-party apps that either enhance or complement what your product can do. They can be built by other companies or indie developers. This lever is the hardest to pull. However, if you can get it going, it can potentially have a huge impact. The best example that comes to mind is Shopify. Shopify has a huge app marketplace because they know e commerce is such a big sector. There's no way they can build for every single use case. So they invite other developers to build for their users. Those developers get to monetize their users, and Shopify gets a cut in the end. Again, it's a win win situation for everybody. Now, every single lever I just mentioned could be very powerful on its own. However, they're most powerful when combined together. If you can layer each lever on top of each other, their effects will usually compound. And when that happens, you will have a true ecosystem. Unfortunately, I cannot dive into all of those levers in depth today. However, I can give you some general tips on ecosystem building. First, you have to pick the right levers for your product. Don't just copy what successful companies do and expect them to work out the same for you. For example, if your product is an accounting software, you probably don't want to use user generated templates because it just doesn't make sense. However, you can build a network of local accountants that are available for your clients to hire. Now, in order to pick the right levers for your product, you really have to understand your market and the growth model, which leads to my second point. You have to understand why people even want to participate in your ecosystem. There are typically three types of motivations. First is altruism. These people really love your product and they want to bring the same value to others. Now, second is social. These are people who want to increase their status in certain circles. And lastly, we have financial. These people want to make money either indirectly through lead generation or directly through some sort of revenue sharing scheme, such as affiliate program. Once you understand their motivations, you want to design an incentive structure that triggers these motivations to increase participation. However, just because you have a foundation in place doesn't mean people will just come naturally. You will often run into a chicken and egg problem where you need an ecosystem to fuel your growth, but you need a large enough user base to even get people to join. So in the beginning, your team has to build that initial spark to get that initial fire going. This includes doing things that are not scalable, such as personally reach out to potential partners, create one-off partnerships, and sometimes you have to do this over a very long period of time. And by long, I mean a couple of years. And this is the hard part about building an ecosystem. Sometimes you will not see any type of traction for a very, very long time until a certain inflection point. But after you get to that point, the growth can be exponential. And that's the power of an ecosystem. If you do start seeing traction, congratulations. However, the real work begins. Because once your product evolves into a platform, you no longer have control over everything that happens. So, for example, if you approve a plugin and the plugin contains malicious code, you might be in trouble. Or if you recommend an agency to another customer and the customer didn't think the agency did a good job and they complain to you, you'll also have to handle that for them. All in all, these are good problems to have, but you want to make sure you have a plan and the resource to tackle them. Otherwise, they might become a big distraction to your core business. All right, that's my presentation for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to say hi to me on Twitter or check out my blog. I will see you around. Bye for now.